First deal here is to call roll, if you would, Cindy.
Elam. Here. Farrell.
Here.
Keach. Net.
Here.
Pagel.
Here.
Ritterbusch.
Here.
Smock. Westlake.
Here.
Zobrist.
Here.
Thank you, Chairman. We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. First order of business this evening is the approval of minutes from last meeting, which was March 23rd, 2015. The minutes were included in your packet. Anyone here at the table have any changes or alterations upon review? Okay, hearing none. Do I have a motion to accept and approve?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Did you get those in?
Yes.
Okay. Ready when you are.
Farrell.
Yes.
Net.
Yes.
Pagel.
Yes.
Ritterbusch.
Yes.
Zobrist.
Yes.
Westlake.
Yes.
And Elam.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next order of business tonight is the public hearing. Prior to the public hearing, I'd like our counselor to give a brief summary of what this consists of and how we move forward.
Thank you. Public hearing is being held tonight pursuant to published notice. Any person wishing to make a comment to the Plan Commission will be afforded an opportunity to do so and will give their comment under oath or affirmation. Any person living within 250 feet of the property at issue wishing to cross-examine a testifying witness will be afforded an opportunity at the discretion of the chairman to do so on matters germane to the issue before the Plan Commission. At the conclusion of the public hearing, the Plan Commission will make a recommendation to the village board. The Plan Commission makes recommendations only. The village board is responsible for taking final action.
Great, thank you very much. Public hearing number 15-03ZA, Glenda Cruz and Sherry Bliss seeking a zoning amendment for Lot 2 of the Casey subdivision, Section 17, T25 North, R3 West, Tazewell County, Illinois, containing approximately 4.54 acres. The requested zoning change is from I2 to B3. If the commission members will recall last month's meeting, this came up. We had Lot 1. Now this is the second portion of that, Lot 2, which I think was originally intended to be included in that. Anyone here from the public that wants to speak on this? I think we have a pretty clear indication. I don't think any questions rose last time around, and it was my understanding everyone here assumed that this would be coming before us this month. So are there any questions from the table? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve petition number 15-03ZA?
I move we approve.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Cindy, when you're ready.
Net.
Yes.
Pagel.
Yes.
Ritterbusch.
Yes.
Westlake.
Yes.
Zobrist.
Yes.
Elam.
Yes.
And Farrell.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next portion of the public hearing is regarding the residential and commercial mixed-use zoning. I'm going to ask Roger from the Village of Morton to give us just a quick summation of this continued discussion, so we know so the commission members know what we're discussing and why.
Okay, as you all remember, we did approve this an ordinance a couple months back with this mixed-use zone, and it all looked good when it was here. Well, then when the first plan came in that we were going to actually then apply this to, we kept running into some roadblocks. So Craig Loudermilk, our Public Works Director, and myself, we worked on this for the last about a month. And one of the big changes is the lack of setback, is which we started to do the last time. That's the way the ordinance was written. There would be like a 0 setback. Well, that didn't work when you bring a commercial building up to the right-of-way line. When you have a corner, we have certain setbacks for safety so that you can see to make a turn. Well, that building would be in there. Plus, you want to have room for people to have some, if they wanted some outdoor area or something, a sidewalk that is ADA accessible for people to walk and navigate through. It just wasn't going to work. So we kind of backpedaled a little bit on that, and the ordinance that you've been given a copy of shows in yellow the items that we are hopeful to change. And then along with that, those setbacks then would be, one of the other issues was stormwater area. Phil being in the construction industry in Gerald, that's just about as big a deal as building the building anymore, is what you're gonna do with this stormwater. And we already have some issues in the downtown area with the combination of storm and sanitary that are together that we have to separate according to the EPA. So there's not really a way. If you have no setback, then you have no place to put this stormwater. And we don't have a regional stormwater detention area downtown. So somewhere in these setbacks, and maybe they'll have to do some underground storage. That's why we kind of went back. We kind of stepped back on that. And if Mr. Loudermilk did make the comment that on the review of the stormwater, if there's some things that they can do creatively, maybe different than what you might do in another site, he's willing to work on that, but we still are gonna have stormwater requirements as a part of it, and it's really already in our site plan review ordinance, so all we did was mention, let's see, 10-15-13
Right. as
required in site plan review. So the setbacks are gonna help accommodate some of that stormwater, and then there's some safety things, as I mentioned earlier. So those are really the main factors that we kind of targeted. So hopefully we don't wear this thing out before we're done yet, but we're making our best stab at it here.
Well, I think obviously the intent when we originated this ordinance was to try to have something. And as we all know, the plans, as soon as someone comes in and tests them a little bit, you get to see where your breaches are. And with regard to stormwater, it was always, I believe, the intention of this table that water detention is it requires creative methodology now. And specifically in downtown environments where mixed use is trying to be promoted. So I think it was the intention always of the ordinance to try to make that be something that came before the village, specifically Craig or whoever's in that chair, to try to come up with and help be creative in it. So I think that makes sense, and the setbacks are what they are. If we have green space, zero green space on this thing, if we have these larger setbacks, it allows for contractor developers to put aesthetic, items in. It also allows for walking with a stroller, with your, side by side. I mean, some of that stuff is sort of the intention of mixed use anyhow. But as far as the distances and as far as the 15 foot from back of curb to the building, is that something that you feel consistently across the board? Because once we get the first one of these built, it should, obviously the intention is they all sort of line up and look good.
Right.
Is that something that's going to fit pretty much across the overlay district? You don't see any challenge areas, or if there are?
That was our intent.
Okay.
And Justin, if I could, and this wasn't meant that you were on that subcommittee.
Yeah.
That you guys didn't do something right.
Well, I take it as a direct slap in the face by Roger.
I'm trying to bail you out here.
No, we get it. Listen, I'm actually real proud of it. I think everything that we did, now we have people here. Now we have people ready to invest money in development. To me, that's the sign of success.
Yeah.
These types of changes, these are things that I think everybody here expected. I mean, nobody that was a part of that subcommittee thought that was going to be the final thing. In fact, we tried to leave some ambiguity there so that on the first test, we had a chance to really take a look at it. Anyone here at the table, questions or thoughts regarding this? And I suppose, this is a public forum. Anyone from the public want to speak to this ordinance at all? You certainly have an opportunity as well to come up and ask questions.
Mr. Chairman, question, comment? This would be applied to new construction, right?
Correct.
Existing construction where they might modify the building in order to have the mixed use, this would not apply. Because a 15-foot requirement from curb would be something brand new. It would set buildings back
It would indeed, yeah.
from what they are now.
That's a good point. These are minimum requirements, so that does come into play a little bit. How do we want to handle the grandfather? Because as this is written now, and maybe a counselor can help me on this, if we accept someone who's currently requesting, because all mixed use in the overlay district does have to come before special use, if we are to accept that, do we need a second line that essentially states that existing facilities work? Because this is worded as minimum.
Well, in my opinion, as you said, it's a special use, so somebody'd have to come before you with a special use. If they can't meet your minimum requirements to obtain a special use, then they would need a variance as well.
Okay.
So they make a joint application for a special use and variance, in my opinion. And the fact that it's an existing building being converted, we have variance cases like that presented frequently with existing nonconformities.
Right.
And generally, those are approved. So I anticipate that'd be the procedure, and I don't anticipate from precedent that it would be a problem to have the variance awarded.
Roger, in that overlay district currently, aside from the residential facilities that obviously make decent standalone small mixed-use units, and all of them pretty much do already have that 15-foot, are there commercial facilities you can think of that this might come into play where that 15-foot would create a challenge to potentially a zoning, the zoning board of review?
Well, a lot of Main Street, the 100 block,
Right.
South Main, was probably going to be, in fact, I didn't measure it for that reason, but I had to measure one the other day, and if I remember right, it was like 12 foot,
Yeah.
8.
Right.
There was not 12 or 15 foot there.
Okay.
But, well, I guess we'll have to see what happens if someone comes forward with a plan to maybe redevelop one of those existing structures. But none of those, with the exception of where the Miller Bakery used to be, which is now the
glass shop.
Yeah, there's, that one has a living quarters above.
Okay.
But the rest of them, I don't think, are used in that way, so.
Was 15 foot, was that a set that you felt needed to be the minimum? I mean, if 12 exists currently on Main, you guys feel that 15 provides more of a buffer that really is a requirement?
Yeah, just because with these ADA requirements, and then just knowing how this might be, if somebody wants to have a table or something set up outside,
Right.
then if you start with nothing, you got nowhere to go, so the 15 foot, and then when you get to the corner, like the particular development we were talking about, would have been at the corner of Plum and Jefferson.
Right.
Well, you have that site triangle that our ordinance requires, and there's no way around that, and here you don't just have a bush in the way, you got a
Right.
3-story building sitting there, so.
That's particularly tricky on those corner lots. That was a good question. The 15 feet, I think obviously it's our job to try to create something that promotes safety and security and the well-being, but also allows for development. This is a tricky one because the developer is going to look at it and go, my goodness, that's an awful lot of space to give up that I'm still paying a premium for. On the other hand, if it increases aesthetically and useful, if it makes the building more dynamic for them because it gives their main floor tenants more use, I think this could certainly be shown in a positive light. I always get nervous when we force existing buildings to go before the ZBA. That's something that I feel is a challenge that I hate to burden people with. But if the precedent is there and the ZBA is well informed as to what this is and why this is, my hope is that they would have little issue getting through them.
Yes, we did look at some of these streetscapes online for
Yeah.
some of these Chicago area suburbs, and it looked like a lot of them did meet that type of a number. They weren't sitting
Right.
right up on the roadway, so it doesn't look like it's it's not a rare thing, so it should be pretty well expected or accepted or
You
whatever.
bet.
If there's no change in the footprint,
Yeah,
people could remodel and there'd be no
right.
requirement for approval. Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just an observation is, when we started, first, this is a good kind of problem to have. This is a response to having
bet.
enacted an ordinance that generated immediate interest in investment in downtown Morton. In my experience, where we've had similar situations, and a merchant or a business, or for that matter, even a residence in many cases, wants to remodel, there's no change in the footprint, then there's no requirement for zoning board of appeals petition in any case. If there is a change in the footprint that would necessitate an appearance before the zoning board of appeals, then typically that change in ordinance is recognized as imposing a hardship that wasn't there before.
Sure.
And the zoning board of appeals acts accordingly. So conceivably, you could have somebody do something and run into a problem, but typically, I think where there's expansion, depending on where it goes, whether it's to the rear or the front, there's the opportunity to manage it.
Well, and I agree with that. My primary concern was I wanted to make sure that because the overlay district still requires the special use come before us for mixed use specifically, that if someone owned a home that they wanted to change into, commercial with residential above it, regardless of whether they whether they left the footprint exactly the same, I wanted to make sure that wasn't going to force them then, because
Right.
that ordinance specifically states. But it sounds like the issue, if and when it arises with current buildings or existing buildings, is really, it's not going to happen in those rare cases. It's going to happen with the commercial facilities that sit up against Main Street. And in the case that those are already there, if those come before us, it's probably going to be a development or a project of substantial size, in which case, I suspect that we'd be before the ZBA for a number of reasons anyway. I feel like I'm hogging this. Anybody else have questions or thoughts here?
My guess is this will mostly relate to new construction.
Yeah, I agree, which is what we're trying to generate. Okay. So this evening, I believe does everyone here at the table feel adequately prepared to vote on this evening? Because I think it would be nice if we could try to get this off of our table and onto the villages, while Roger, who's worked so hard on this, Roger, you too. You have worked hard on this, but while Trustee Newhouse is still in office, I'd like for him to have this be a part of a pretty substantial legacy. If there are no other questions from this table, I'd like to hear a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve this modified version of the ordinance 14-34.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
I love it when we have a race to second. I'll let Cindy figure out who won that.
Nepp,
Yes.
Pagel,
Yes.
Ritterbusch,
Yes.
Westlake,
Yes.
Zobrist.
Yes.
Elam,
Yes.
Farrell.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes the public hearing portion of tonight's Plan Commission. Next on the agenda, Roger, do you have anything more for us this evening?
The only thing I would have is to thank Mr. Newhouse for all his years of service, and particularly the support that he gave me and my department, so I do appreciate it.
I agree. When I first stepped into this, you handed off one of the greatest packets that I've ever received as a part of any commission or volunteer group I've believed in. And I've referred to that many, many times over the course of my tenure here, and I've learned a tremendous amount from you, not just regarding this, but about a great many things. And
That was useful.
you'll be missed. So is there anything from you tonight?
I have three quick items. One is that obviously I won't be here after May 5th, and I'm pleased to say that succeeding me on the Board of Trustees, not necessarily in this assignment because I don't think the mayor's made that decision yet, but succeeding me on the Board of Trustees will be Rod Blunier, and I've asked Mr. Blunier to join us this evening, and his wife Teresa is with him, so you get an opportunity after the meeting, maybe introduce yourselves and In addition to Mr. Blunier's impending experience with trustee, Mrs. Blunier is a veteran of the Economic Development Council Downtown Development Committee, so there's some expertise in the family that we can pass along to the community. As I said, the second item, Mayor has not yet made a final decision about trustee assignments, at least not to my knowledge, so that will have to happen after I'm gone. And the third item is simply to say that it has been an honor to serve. Morton is so highly blessed and benefited with the kinds of people that we have in appointed office. I've spent years traveling around the world and been in all kinds of places, dealt with government people where we have more experience and talent and competency than almost any place else you could imagine, regardless of size, and certainly in comparable communities. It's just been one of the great privileges of my life to be involved in this for all these years, and I thank you all for serving. And for some of you, the opportunity may arise down the road to run for trustee yourselves, and if that happens, I would encourage you to do it. So thank you again, and that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Okay, well, if there's nothing else, do I have a motion to adjourn this evening? And a second?
I second.
All who approve of leaving, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right.